guys. It's Bard's Tavern here, or Jacob with Tabletop Misfits. And today we have a special report for you guys with the creators and artists and everybody for Dead Money, which is brought to you by one of our favorite people that play Jin Jack Wonderful and Dress to Quest. So we will go around and introduce everybody to you and have an amazing show. So we'll start off with you, Chris.
Sure. I'm Chris. I play Jin Jack Wonderful on Dress to Quest normally, but in the real world, I'm an art consultant on a exciting Western horror Kickstarter comic book, and I'm working with my friends here, old friends and new, on putting out the comic. And we've already completed one issue, and we're moving forward with issues 2 and 3 on the Kickstarter. My background is in mostly in animation and working in the games industry. I've worked in the games industry for 30 odd years, and now I'm retired and creating art for old geezers, myself being the old geezer. And I guess, yeah, that's about it, I guess. I'll pass it on to, oh, sorry, I'm not the host. I'll leave it to our host to pass it on to next. Although I'd pick Jesse Scoble next.
Hey, I'm Jesse Scoble. Good to meet you all.
You can pass it on.
Okay.
I am one of the co-writers of Dead Money. I've been working in the video game and tabletop industry for about 20 odd years as a writer now, maybe a bit more. I've worked on Assassin's Creed Origins and Odyssey, Far Cry 5, Watch Dogs 2, had a long stint on Wizard 101 down in Austin, Texas. And I've worked on tabletop games like Silver Age Sentinels, Game of Thrones D20, Vampire, and much more recently done some work with my co-writer partner here on the Marvel Multiverse RPG. And I will pass the torch on to Devinder.
Hi, my name is Devinder. A lot of folks just refer to me by Dev, short form. And as Jesse said, I'm the other writer on Dead Money. That's our latest thing. Previous to this, I worked with Jesse on Marvel RPG. We made a couple of supplements for them and the main book. Beyond that, I like to write short stories, essays, any kind of small political rants about current state of the world, etc. And I'm a pretty big fan of sci-fi, history, and fantasy in general. So that's who I am. I'll pass it on to our other fellow guest here.
Thank you, Deb. So my name is Mishka. I'm originally from Argentina. I've been working in the game industry for, 15 years now, 16 years. I started as a journalist and then moved into game design and teaching. I've been a professor for 12 years now, going into 13. And as I said, I'm originally from Argentina. I'm currently in Mexico, and I do a little bit of operative producing for Dead Money, contacting and working closely with the artists and that kind of stuff, and the lettering and helping whenever I can. I'm a little bit of a jack of all trades, if you will. And I guess that's all of us.
That's awesome. So the first thing, and I guess we'll have to pass it around again, is like, where did the concept of Dead Money come from?
So I'll take the first little bit and then I'll hand off Deb for the second half of the story. So I had moved from Toronto, Ontario, down to Austin, Texas, as I transitioned from the pen and paper industry into the video game world. And Austin has a huge and amazing film festival, the Austin Film Festival, that has a writers' conference part. So you get to hear all sorts of super cool people talk. I heard like Christopher McQuarrie that year, and which really stuck out. And then the latter year, I heard Vince Gilligan speak. So just great kind of accessibility. And so I was thinking a lot about screenwriting, and one of the ways that I got to go to attend the Austin Film Festival to earn a badge is you could read scripts for their film writing contest. So they gave me a stack of scripts like this and said, which ones are good, which was about this many. So I was really in the headspace of reading scripts, and I had also been reading a lot of stories about kind of the West, Texas, the desert, border stories, and was particularly struck by one writer, a American-Mexican writer, Luis Alberto Urrea, who's written a bunch of really terrific shorts. And he had a book called The Devil's Highway about a pretty brutal voyage of a number of immigrants coming up from Mexico trying to cross into the U.S. through the Yuma Desert. And when I was finishing my year in Texas, Dev came down to help me pack up my car and drive back. And he said, "Hey, I think we should write something together. It'd be fun." And I said, "Hey, yeah, that'd be great. Why don't we write a movie script? It'd be something super simple and easy. It'd be like an action script, like, I don't know, Die Hard or Alien. And we should set it in the desert and have like monsters." And he said, and I'll pass it on to you.
Yeah, I think he, at the time you had mentioned it would be something like Cowboys versus Aliens, which had just come out, and you seemed enamored with that. And we were going to attempt something with possibly vampires, werewolves, and God knows what else. And I replied that I think that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard, and we're not doing that, basically. But somewhere along the 3-day drive back up to Canada, something changed. We talked a lot more, had a few other ideas kicked around. And I think Jesse was suitably cowed or chagrined or embarrassed by the suggestion. He dropped it. 2 weeks later, I showed up with a spreadsheet with all the characters mapped out, plot mapped out, how to do the story and what we wanted to do. And we went with Western horror and zombies, basically. And he said, "I thought you hated this idea." I go, "Yeah, but I thought a bit more about it. And I think there was something there I wanted to explore. So let's do it." And that's pretty much the origin of Dead Money.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I mean, just looking at it, like, this would be a book that I would pick up. So I love the concept of that, and for when I have gotten to look at it, it looks amazing. And Chris, you're doing all the art for it, right?
Oh no, the actual artist, art consultant. I'm doing some art support for the Kickstarter, but the artist is, well, the primary artist is Tomas Aira, who Mishka hooked us up with, and unfortunately Tomas couldn't join us today. But we have also a number of guest artists doing covers as well. We can get into, you can show the art. Like, we have multiple. We decided on doing multiple covers for each issue. There's the primary cover, which is done by Tomas Aira, and then the other covers done by. I don't want to mangle their names, so I'm going to have Mishka. Who are the other artists, Mishka?
So for the first issue, we had one of our guest cover artists was Diego Giribaldi, also from Argentina. Both Tomas and Diego are part of the comic industry, main comic industry, if you will. They have worked with different big names, right? Boom, Dark Horse, that kind of stuff. Some Marvel here and there. And then I invited, or we invited Mato So, from Argentina, also on the first cover. He's more of a street artist, illustrator, that kind of stuff, but he has a really interesting style. So the guys liked it, and we went with him. And then for issue 2, we are back again with Tomas, of course, who is the main artist, and then Diego. We are trying to do a full. Like the idea is to work with the full collection with Diego, doing alt covers, and then I have to try to remember the names, but I know that Jesse has contacted them. Yeah.
I can chime in. So for issue 2 and 3, we have Jose Holder, who is a concept artist from video game world that I know from Assassin's Creed, and Jessie Lamb, who is another amazing artist who's done some video game work, and she worked on the first season of Invincible, and they've both done great covers for us as well. So it's terrific. But yes, Mishka is our main contact to the art world of Argentina and to Tomas specifically.
Yeah,
Awesome.
now with Mexico, we are trying to talk with some Mexican artists also to bring them in or do some collaborations. So we'll see where that goes.
I did do a version of Tomas's cover. Oh, sorry. Didn't mean to cut
You're
you
fine.
off.
Keep going.
I did. We have a pulp cover, which is basically a sepia tone version of one of Tomas's covers, and we plan to do that for the other issues as well. And that one I basically took Tomas's cover art and turned it into something appropriate for late 1800s newspaper. I think I included it in the package so we can look at it if you'd like later on.
So on this Kickstarter, it's covering issues 2 and 3, correct?
Yep.
What challenges did y'all have kind of after doing issue 1? That was kind of the green light of, I think we can keep going. Let's do issue 2 and 3.
I think the main one was after we got issue 1 done, published, printed, sort of distributed, fulfilling all our requirements. We realized just how much effort and work it is. So myself and Jesse is just the writers. At the end of the day, that's really our primary skill. That's what we like to do. But you don't realize once you take on a project like this that you now have to learn how does printing work, what is various paper qualities, what ink smells funny, and what does what. Like it just goes on and on, basically, where you're just trying to learn how to do a lot of different things. And then other things you don't know anything about because we've never worked in this industry before, especially as independents where you kind of have to take on everything. So once that was all done, we kind of had a better feeling, realized what mistakes we made on in issue 1, and we could correct them and make it better. And we decided at that point that okay, originally we were just the first issue was just to kind of get our feet wet and see if it's something we could accomplish or do. And it got done, and we realized that we can improve on 2 and 3, etc., going forward, and that motivated us to want to finish the whole rest of this series. So, just to let you folks know that it's a plan to be 10 issues long series. So we're mostly committed at this point to going forward and delivering it in the comic book format, basically. So. It was the encouragement from having success on the first issue, I think, is really what motivated us to go tackle 2 and 3, basically.
Yeah, I think I just kind of chime in there that, Dev and I have wanted to work on a comic for a really long time. I mean, we're both of us are, and I think everybody here probably is comic fans from, a very small, very, very young age. And I've worked with some amazing artists in the video game world and tabletop, but someone who can do a beautiful painting, beautiful concept piece, it's not quite the same skill set as someone who's going to do a 22, 24, 26 page comic. And so trying to find someone to it, I mean, not that there's not work on the writer side, because there obviously is. Oh, sorry, my connection blinked for a second there. Trying to find somebody who is able to commit to it it's a big endeavor, big task, and so we've never found the right person to partner with. And then when I had the good fortune to meet Mishka at a conference in Buenos Aires a few years ago, we were talking about let's collaborate. It'd be really fun to kind of collaborate something down the road, like a game or something. And then I don't remember exactly how I brought it up, but I may have said hey, do you know anything about any comic artists? And Mishka was like, do I? And so I'd love to hear, for your angle on it, Mishka, but for it was for artists. And when we really liked Tomas's stuff, and I talked to Devin and said, look, let's pay, let's find a little bit of money to put forward to just do some character sketches and a couple of sample pages. And it's not a huge commitment, but we'll obviously we'll pay him for work and stuff, but this is manageable. And if we like it, we can talk about how we go forward. And if we don't, if it's not a good fit, that's fine. It's not, we just cut bait, not a huge deal. And those first character sketches and pages came in, and I kind of knew I was committed to the first issue at that point. But committing to one issue, it's a bigger gamble, a bigger commitment, but it's still limited. And I think Dev and I both thought, well, let's see how this comes out. If this feels terrible, if it looks bad, if this is just a nightmare to do, that's fine. We've paid for one issue, we've done it, and we'll go on. And then the whole thing, it looks like a comic. We think we're all really proud of it. Are there things we can improve? For sure. Are there things we've learned in the process? Undoubtedly. But it's something we're really proud of, and I think it stands, really well against other, works. And I think we'll just get better as we go forward. And it's a fun group to work with.
That's awesome. Touching on one thing that you brought up, kind of all of us being comic fans, what were comics that actually influenced all you guys to get into kind of this industry of work?
Wow, that's a big list. As far as the visual language and the style of the comic, I'll speak for myself. After reading the script, my biggest inspiration is Bernie Wrightson. He's passed, but he was an artist on Swamp Thing, and he did a lot of work for Creepy Comics. Also, the earlier works of Richard Corbin come to mind, and of course, in terms of the style, we decided on a black and white comic. I thought Joe Kubert, actually all the Kuberts, would be a good influence for that in terms of very bold use of line. And again, it's the approach with it's very helpful to know that you're doing a black and white comic ahead of time, and Tomas understands that. So the treatment of shadows and the treatment of space is very different when you're working with black and white, as opposed to knowing that you're working with color. And he's very cognizant of that. But that was kind of the look I was thinking of that would be suitable for a zombie Western. And of course, the one comic I looked at a lot and I shared with the others was Blueberry by Mobius.
Yeah.
There's also Mishka turned us on to the vast world of Argentine comics, and which I confess I was not aware of because I don't read Spanish. But the art is the history of, especially in the Western and horror genre, the art was fantastic. And it made me want to read Spanish, or at least find some translated versions of those comics. But that was the look and feel. I feel, well, again, I'm only speaking for myself, I had in mind as far as the direction for the comic book. I mean, it would look silly if we did it in sort of a big eye, small mouth anime style. That's what I'm thinking, right? No, there are certainly other styles and decisions and I'm not dismissing them. I'm not, no anime fans, I'm not trashing you. I'm just saying that, the form should suit the function. And we thought that would be the most suitable way to, the best visual language for Dead Money.
Why don't we go in order, Jesse? Why don't you take it next?
Oh, so I mean, character influences. I think that like the Vertigo series, like the Vertigo line under DC, was a huge influence in terms of what can be done that's not superheroes. And I mean, I love, you know, my classic Spider-Man and X-Men and stuff, comics, but I think it's very hard to tell a superhero story. That field is so crowded. And maybe one day, I mean, I have loved the genre. I've done some work in superhero role-playing games, but I didn't have a particularly strong idea for a superhero story right now. So this was something that, you know, as we said, we initially kind of thought of it as a movie script, but don't really know much about the world of making movies. I mean, kind of investigated a little bit for a few years, but this really felt like it would work really well in a comic form. It's an ambitious story. I mean, in terms of, you know, 10 issues is a lot to do kind of right out the gate. But it's not like we're at the beginning of our careers. I mean, we've been working in other related creative fields for a long time. So, you know, I certainly, as for a modern Western, Preacher is a big influence on me. Jason Aaron's Scalped series is somewhat more recent stuff, I think was fantastic. I have been reading a few more indie things recently. There's this great book called Rare Flavors by Ram V, which I've got sitting here. I just picked up the fancy version of it, which is a beautiful book about food and monsters and culture and things. And I have Something That's Killing the Children sitting here waiting to be read soon, because that's something that gets talked about a lot these days, and I really need to catch up on. So, you know, wide mix of stuff. Dev?
I'm trying to remember, like, my earliest memories of comics was reading stuff by Jack Kirby, actually, and the work he did at Marvel. The man is just, I mean, he's a genius. The way he blended this new age stuff with Eastern mysticism and just the art and stuff. So I remember, you know, the heydays of the FF comic books he did and some of the Avengers series. I mean, the guy was prolific. He was incredible. So that was my earliest memory of comic books and just being impressed. And, you know, when I was growing up, I had a reading disability, essentially. So reading was a little hard for me, and I found comics very accessible because it's just a picture story in some ways. And I found Jack Kirby's stuff to be just fantastic because it was really out there. It was, you know, and he came up with so many good concepts of the Celestials, the new gods, and just all kinds of stuff, basically. So, and from there, it gave me a love for really wanting to learn how to read properly and be able to kind of move on. And it obviously worked because I ended up getting a degree in literature. So surely I was able to get over that. But then later on, I met Chris when I was a teenager, and I ended up rifling through pretty much most of his comic collection and reading through it, which was you know, a pretty good experience there in terms of knowing someone who's a bit older than yourself to be able to guide you into some arts and things like that and show you what to do. And then after that, when I got to university, again, I met Jesse, and he had a pretty good collection too. So I rifled through his collections. But fortunate enough not to have to buy all these comics myself, but get the experience of having to read through them, and just had a love for the art form, just the ability of what you know, a writer and an artist, a couple of folks can get together and what they can do. Because unlike a movie, you don't need, like, you know, $100 million to do something that's amazing. You can just pull it out of your mind and sort of put it on paper and get it out there. And I always thought it was an unappreciated art form in general in our culture, and it's kind of declined significantly since the 90s sort of comic book crash. But you know, I feel like it's just it's an art form that deserves some respect and deserves to be put in the same categories as high literature as a lot of classic writing does. And you know, we basically kind of decided from there we're gonna give it a shot and put something out ourselves that hopefully it's the same notes of what I remember growing up and reading and learning and kind of influencing my life in a sense. So hopefully that covers the question there of what artists influenced me, etc. But King Kirby will always be, I think, top of the line, basically. Right. Go ahead, Mishka.
Okay, so I really love comic books. I think that my first comic books related memories are with some X-Men by Claremont and maybe Excalibur. I really love Excalibur, like the Nightcrawler, Irish team, mutant team. I really love them from the early 90s or something like that. Um, and then I always try to follow up on comic books. In Argentina, it wasn't that easy for me to get comics because usually they were quite expensive. We had a few stores where we could buy them. Then we had a few small local companies that were releasing or translating some comics, and we stopped getting them from Mexico or Spain, so it was a little bit more available. But I always try to connect with a lot of people that work on comic books or fanzines or whatever. And then I met a few friends that used to play, or they still play, but we used to play as a group MTG and tabletop RPGs, right? And then through them I started connecting with some professionals in the industry, and that's how I met Tomas. And we really clicked because we had some anecdotes on playing tabletop RPGs, like old school, like Palladium system and that kind of stuff, which is awful. And then we had a really good connection, and I always bother him with like, oh, we should work on a comic together, we should work on a comic together. And the opportunity never came. And then I met Jesse, and as he said, we really clicked on the Mika in Buenos Aires. And then I started bugging Jesse on, hey, let's work on something together. When are we going to work in something together, right? Those were my emails. And we talked a few times, and suddenly one day he was like, oh, I have like a comic book, right? What he was selling before, right? And I was like, sure, I know